Hello, and a very warm welcome to Print Island. My name is Richard Askham, and I'm the co-creator and executive producer of the show. For years now, I've been convinced that the global print industry feels like it lives on an island. It knows everyone on the island, and it only ever talks to those people, but it's never left. So the outside world has no idea how creative, innovative, and technically brilliant the print industry has become, which is why we constantly hear the "is print dead" debate rumbling on. So, we have put together something special for the global print industry on this subscription YouTube channel that isn't sponsored or backed by any print manufacturers or dealers and has no vested interest in anything but being honest. We have gathered a bunch of totally independent but highly respected and experienced print professionals from around the world, covering every region, to bring you news, views, interviews, and product reviews from around the world of print, so you can keep up with the industry wherever you live without ever having to leave home, saving you a fortune in travel costs alone. Each episode of Print Island will feature a different guest host from the US, the UK, Europe, the Middle East, Asia Pacific, and Australia, each of whom has decades of experience in different parts of the industry, which means you get a broad, balanced, and independent view that isn't rooted in sales or marketing. We've taken the Top Gear approach as our inspiration. We've gathered a bunch of talented print lovers talking about the industry as it really is, but with a sideways look at what is really under the hood. Our goal is to create a worldwide community who can find out everything they need to know about what's happening in the wonderful world of print. Print Island isn't limited to those who work in the industry, of course, some 1.5 million people worldwide. It can also be used by the Holy Grail, customers, brands, creative agencies who know next to nothing about what the print industry is capable of, because that information has largely never left the island. We want to grow the industry. We want to attract young people to work in the industry. We want to let them know it's actually the tech industry. It just doesn't know it. And to do this, we need your help. Subscribe today to Print Island for just $149 a year, and you will get 26 fortnightly episodes of the show, plus bonus content, extended interviews with the sort of people you don't get to hear from at trade shows, and product reviews by our very own practical printer, who will lift the lid on some amazing hardware and software products on every show. So thanks for watching so far, and on behalf of myself and the whole team at Digital Ink Media, you are welcome to Print Island. Coming up on this episode of Print Island. So here we are on episode 1 of Print Island, the world premiere, if you like. I feel as though there should be a red carpet in front of me. You can't see what's in front of me, so let's assume that there is a red carpet.
There is a red carpet, Richard. I can see it.
And I'm delighted that our first host of Print Island is our North American legend, our print avenger himself, Mr. Timothy Mitchell.
Well, thank you, Richard. I've never been a legend, but I'll accept that, if only cursory.
I don't know. Maybe legend is a word that we only use about people when they're dead. But yeah. As you can see from your screen, Timothy is very much alive and kicking this morning. And I'm looking forward very much to this first episode, Timothy. As you know, we've put a lot of work behind the scenes over the last few months to bring Print Island to air. And it's a great honor for me personally to have you on as the first guest host for episode 1. And you've got a particularly interesting guest, I gather, that you've been interviewing.
I do. I went with a company that here in the U.S. has some visibility, but generally speaking, if I asked 20 people who is FEDRIGONI, they wouldn't necessarily know. It wouldn't be clear to them. And yet globally, and particularly in Europe and much of the Middle East, FEDRIGONI is a huge company. They're a major manufacturer. They manufacture all over the world. They're centered in Italy, and they have made a very concerted effort to have a presence now here in the United States in the North American market. And I think that considering their scale, considering their influence, what they're capable of doing, you're going to see and hear a great deal more of them. And so what I did is I asked them, because the show is fairly brief, what are your 2 core products that you have here in the US that people should know about? And they brought their people on board, and we concentrated on a printable, highly environmentally friendly, sustainable paper that can be placed onto flat, non-porous surfaces. And then also they introduced their very formidable cast vinyl wrap film, which I am getting across the board from serious vehicle wrap people, that it is an outstanding product. It balances everything you're looking for. And most important for people like me, it's very easy for beginners to learn. It's an extremely forgiving film for people who are new, but it meets all the expectations for people that are highly skilled. So their vehicle cast film is attracting a lot of attention, and so I thought I would give the company some time as well as their two core products.
Well, that's a brilliant way to start, Print Island. And as the start of this particular first episode, I'm going to give you the honor, Timothy, of giving them the 3, 2, 1.
Thank you, Richard. Let's take that red carpet, roll it all the way down to the dock, and give a warm welcome to FEDRIGONI. Paula, Renee, Matt, why don't you come ashore and join us? Hello, everybody, and welcome to Print Island. My name is Timothy Mitchell, your North American host, and the purpose of Print Island is to invite people on the island from all facets of the digital printing industry. Now, we always start with a toast because this is an island and this is informal and this is supposed to be a lot of fun. Cheers, everybody. Welcome to the island. The idea, of course, guys, is we want it to feel like a very nice bar that you go to after the show. And that's kind of where the actual conversation happens because people feel at ease, they feel relaxed, they feel convivial towards one another. And especially after a few drinks, everybody has a nice chat. And that's what I'm kind of looking for in this here. Now, I've invited one of the largest media manufacturing companies in the world to join us here, FEDRIGONI. And I have Paula and Renee. Matt does not work for FEDRIGONI, but we'll introduce Matt in just a second. A lot of you here in the U.S. may not know FEDRIGONI. It's just not familiar to you. And that's why I really wanted to have them on, because they're a giant global presence in digital media, both for paper and for adhesive printable films. And they just don't have the presence here that they have in some other parts of the world. So, Paula, I'm going to try to, you know what, I'm going to give up on pronouncing your last name. I butcher it every time. So would you please introduce yourself so everyone can know who you are?
Hi, hello everyone. I'm Paola Cerchiai, Business Development Manager and Technical Sales at FEDRIGONI.
Marvelous. And Renee, you're kind of new to FEDRIGONI, so please introduce yourself and let us know what you do.
Yes, hello, I'm Renee. I'm new to FEDRIGONI family through the acquisition of the Polytape Group by the FEDRIGONI company, and I will take over from now on the position of the VP Sales and Marketing for FEDRIGONI Graphics in North America. And I'm currently working on the European side of the business.
Fantastic. Thank you. By the way, I use Polytape religiously for a lot of my transfers. So very nice product. Very happy with it. Have a basement full of it that I've been testing over the years. So thank you.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. And Matt, introduce yourself. Matt, you own, I'll let you introduce yourself. I'm not going to introduce you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to see everybody. I'm Matthew Ferguson. I own A&M Graphics in upstate New York. A lot of people know me industry-wide. I have also become the lead application trainer for the U.S. for FEDRIGONI, which has been absolutely great.
Yeah, fantastic. I definitely associate you because every event I'm at, there's a wrap event going on, and you're wrapping for FEDRIGONI. So nice to see you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, so Paula, tell me a little bit about the company, its background, its reach, where the manufacturing is done, and what types of products does FEDRIGONI primarily manufacture?
Yeah, so actually, FEDRIGONI today is really, as you said, one of the largest groups out there in the industry. They started back in 1888 just with paper in Verona, and today, I would say that we are globally a synonym of primer luxury paper, labels, RFID, self-adhesive medias like graphics materials. So we are really expanding quite a lot. The group has something like 6,000 people today. We are present in almost 28 countries, but we cover 132. So as a matter of fact, we are really recognized as to be, for example, the reference point when it comes to labels for wine, which is a topic we discussed earlier, Timothy.
Absolutely.
I know
Yeah,
how
I'm a
much you
big
like
supporter of wine labels. I'm usually peeling them off.
it. Not only
Anyway, please go on.
of course, also little people in luxury. And as a matter of fact, we are the third biggest manufacturer group when it comes to self-adhesive media. So the range is pretty unique with 25,000 products inside. And
Wow.
thanks God, Renee and I, we don't have to know all of them. Otherwise, this could be kind of
Right.
crazy. The group is really expanding. Just in the last 5 years, there have been like 16 acquisitions. Rene is coming from one of those acquisitions, which is the Polytech group. And we are really, when it comes to graphics, so the business unit for which Rene and I are responsible, we are really pushing a lot and investing a lot in order to become one of the major players in different continents. So as you said, potentially right now for sure in Europe, FEDRIGONI is a name. I know it is a name in North America when it comes to some specialties, but the will to growth over there, even when it comes to graphics media, is our desire.
Marvelous.
The beauty of FEDRIGONI today is that we do not only cover one part of the graphics market with the standard monomeric polymerics, but we also have a beautiful range of cast products, but also a great addition now with Aslan, which is part of the FEDRIGONI group and of the Polytape group previously. Specialty products, like very high-end niche products, the textile graphics side of business. So we really cover the whole range of product that you might want to work in the graphics world, which is
fantastic,
very unique.
Excellent. All right, wonderful. You have some new products. Two in particular we decided to identify for today because you have these great products in the US market. I love both of them. Start me out, Paula. What's the first one?
The first one is the natural fiber. So the natural fiber is kind of unique solution in the market. And when we decided to develop it, we really tried to answer one single question. When it comes to indoor short-term application, do we need plastic? Europe is really trying to get away from plastic as much as possible. FEDRIGONI is really into sustainability. It's kind of growing in US as well. So we really try to help the environment. And the answer was no. When it comes to really short-term advertisement, like 3-4 weeks indoor, on windows, on metals, carton boxes, alu bonds, you don't need plastic. And this is the result of it was the natural fiber that is actually 100% post-consumer recycled
100% recycled.
And recyclable
All
as well.
post-consumer waste. So if I still read newspapers, they would take that newspaper after I read it and put it into a reconstruction and then make it into post-consumer waste and make it into this wonderful peel and stick adhesive film.
Because it has an ultra removable adhesive. And it's not only recycled, it is also recyclable. So it is
marvelous.
It is a media today you can print with latex, resin, UV LED, and UV gel technologies. And you know that we do have internally a tool called, we have internally our own LCA tool to measure the really impact of the media. And we really demonstrated that versus the monomeric media manufactured in the same plant with at least 2 of the 3 component identicals, you are really saving energy, water, and CO2. So that one, it's definitely one of the products I like the best. And of course, the second one is the cost.
Marvelous. So I see that it's Forest Stewardship Council certified. It's 100% post-consumer waste. It's recyclable in and of itself. And it's primarily an application for windows and then flat, non-porous surfaces.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Interesting product. I saw a video of it. Quite nice. Looks really good in a window, for example. Nice application for the window. And then I also noticed it's designed for resin, latex, and UV gel. It's not solvent applicable.
No.
It
No,
would
I
Okay.
make
mean,
sense to
actually,
be.
not for the time being. Anyway, the purpose, in case people are really starting to appreciate the media the same way that advertising agencies, but even OEMs appreciate it. We might be thinking of developing a full range, and of course, there we will also be matching eco-solvent inks because they are also improving and doing something versus being more eco-friendly than they were in the past. So I'm sure that
Certainly.
there is a window even for them. But for the time being, the way it has been technically built up and chemically built up, it's not matching with eco-solvent.
Understand. Renee, was there something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I mean, apart from all the thing Paula said about the products, which are technically an improvement for what you can offer to the market, and it had this beautiful printability. What I do like about that product is the feel and touch of it. And once you print it, the look of it. So you have a media that does the purpose of exactly what you need. Plus, it has this beautiful finish
Oh,
and haptic that makes it. I mean, monomeric film looks plastic. It is a plastic.
sure. It does.
Now you
Yeah.
have a media that gives you something which is a higher. It gives a high-end quality to your
Okay.
media.
So it has a
That is-
nice tactile quality to it, and it almost looks like a high-end non-woven wallpaper or something more along those lines.
It has a little bit of that, and for me, it is something quite beautiful about it.
Okay. Is it more of a matte finish in its final print, or does it kind of? I would think it depends a little on the ink technology.
Especially if you print UV or
But definitely the base is matte.
The base is matte.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's very nice. I tend to prefer a matte finish a little bit for certain decor type elements,
Yeah.
not for wraps and stuff. Is obviously gloss tends to be obviously what everyone's looking for. Okay. Well, ending on the matte note, moving over to the gloss note, that seems like a perfect transition. You also have a very nice cast film, right? You've introduced a cast film in the US. It's received, I think, consistently very good reviews from people that I know. In fact, I was just at Jim Miller's place from Miller Decal a couple days ago, and I asked him about it. And Jim said, I haven't had a lot of experience with it, but everything I've seen that has been put in my hand did exactly what I want a good cast vinyl to do. I said, okay, well, that's a nice compliment. I mean, Jim is very qualified. He's very careful. He said, I haven't spent too much time with it, but everything I've seen in the wraps that I've done, I really liked it. I said, great, that's good. So I'll use that as a segue. Matthew, Paula, who wants to take it for the cast vinyl?
I'm going to leave Matthew because this is really his area of expertise.
All right. So Matt, what's it called? What's the name I should be looking for?
So it's the C50 Ultimate Slide and Tack.
Okay.
With FEDRIGONI, there's different C50, C30 products. So this one in particular is the Ultimate Slide and Tack. It's a 12-year cast vehicle wrap material, and that's really exactly what
12?
it's made for. 12 years.
12 years.
Yep. So FEDRIGONI, coming in hot in the U.S. market, boasting a better warranty than most of the other films on the market, if not all of them, with this film. So this film's been great. I've been using it personally for almost a year now. People that know me certainly know I want to be attaching my name to something if I wasn't using it myself, if I hadn't put it through its paces. And I have certainly done that, as Paula knows.
Right.
I've definitely put it through the ringer, put it through its paces, and done some things I'm not supposed to do with it. And the film has just been absolutely great. We're using it primarily for all of our vehicle wraps and have been for, like I said, almost a year now at my shop in New York. So,
All right.
some of the features, the cast wrap film market is very different than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. 10 years ago, everything was very similar. You installed everything in a very similar manner. You could use pretty much one standard generic profile to print everything depending on your type of printer you're using. And that's just not the case anymore. The market has absolutely exploded. The technology has taken off. And now from manufacturer, even within manufacturers from film to film, you have a lot of differences. You have a lot of different new technologies built into these films. And I kind of consider the C50 Ultimate Sliding Tack almost like a next gen film, where it really has, it's taken a lot of the great features that you like in some of your favorite cast vinyl wrap materials, gotten rid of, some of the cons, and really added some of what I consider, like I said, those next gen features that I think we're really going to see the rest of the films in the marketplace try to catch up with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to qualify, thank you very much for that.
Can I
Paula, were you going to say something?
Yeah, actually, what I really like of this media is that he makes even beginners feeling comfortable with what they are doing. Because
Okay. That's me. That's me, beginner, feeling comfortable with wrap vinyl.
yeah, because
Maybe I'll finally be able to wrap something after all with some credibility, but please continue.
now actually, at the very beginning when you're trying to wrap something, and if you have a media that is too tacky or is not really helping you, you're just feeling confused and you're struggling. The initial almost zero tack of this media is really allowing people to do mistakes. So it really allows you to do mistakes, to correct them. And once you're happy with the final result, you squeeze, you post heat, and the job is done. So I really see a lot of beginners that are really enjoying using this media. And also, for example, a lot of very small, let's say installers that they run very small businesses. So they are just one or two, but they are working in fleet graphics. They can handle jobs but on their own. So they can really speed up the go-to-market. So they are really able to decorate a car or whatever much quicker than with some other medias. And these are really the two peculiarities that I think are making this media so well appreciated in the market up to now.
100%.
Okay, wonderful.
To kind of expound on what Paula said, it's I really don't like either end of that spectrum. If it's what I consider no tack, some films will say they're no tack, but they're no tack, so you can't just get them set and go. Some films are way too aggressive, so if they stick to themselves, now you're sitting there wrestling that panel apart. I feel like the C50 Ultimate Sliding Tack is a perfect happy medium when it comes to that. Low initial tack and slidability, but if I get that on a fender and I put down my first couple of strokes, it's going to stay there. It's not going to pop up and,
Sure.
Even the spots I've already put down. So it's really nice. And and again, she hit the nail right on the head with that. Experienced installers, because of the ease of use with this film, experienced installers have seen much faster installations. And then the other end of that spectrum, it's a much easier entry into learning correctly how to apply vehicle wraps. The training classes we're doing, we've had people who've never even touched vinyl before, leave being what I call dangerous enough to get started in the market and of course continue their learning and everything like that. But they've got a good foothold to get started in this film.
You are tempting me to actually go up there and learn how to do a wrap. Like it's one thing I just can't do, and I know that, right? Having been banned, basically when I was in production, somebody would just point and go back to the computer. Back to the computer. Stay away from the car.
Yeah.
So I think with this, I like the idea that it can glide where I need it and I can place it. And once I know where it's right, now I can commit.
Yeah.
Right.
And then once you commit, it just goes. And I think that's what you're describing to me. And that sounds very appealing.
100%. It's from the beginner standpoint, again, you're not, fighting a film that's too tacky or worried about it sticking to itself or something like that. You're really able to, it's a stress-free install with this film. It takes very little heat. And I challenge people to do as much without heat at all on this film, because it really forms on its own, where people, would typically just grab the heat gun or the torch, start heating it. It's like, nope, don't touch that until you absolutely need it. And, when they do that, it really has impressed a lot of people.
Okay. A couple other questions. I know you use solvent printers. You have a 4 and 8 color solvent.
Correct.
Is the any concerns with different ink technology, or does it work very well across the board?
It works very well across the board. Obviously with solvents, it's, we can really get away with a lot. For us, that was one of the other things. There's other films that have come out that have promised this, that, the other, this feature, that feature, but then they're so sensitive to heat that when we start printing them, even with the lower temperatures of a solvent printer, we have to adjust all the settings just to print this one film. So the ease of production with the FEDRIGONI material has been great, because that's
Right.
just as important as installation is as well. It's still, I've got guys here, if it's battling them during the production process, then I'm probably going to look at something else,
Absolutely.
So,
It also appears to me that you guys have a pretty comprehensive list of color of what I call color presets, but you have profiles for most people, color profiles
Yeah.
for third-party software for this particular media, and that's very nice. You want to tell me a little bit about that? I mean, you guys made that commitment, and I appreciate it. It's a really nice thing. So when the user can plug it in, they can say, "Hey, I use this rip," and it's right there. I just download it right in, and it looks great.
Yeah. Well, actually, we started cooperating with a third-party company. It's an independent lab, like something like 4 years ago, out of memory. And one of the purpose was really to provide end users with the proper profile for the range of medias, our range of media. And of course, CAST was involved into that. So the idea is really to help customers from the first media they are printing without losing time and money and waste material, waste ink, just going download
Right.
proper profile. It's very easy to download them, by the way. And then let's say when it comes to printing parts, not installing, but when it comes to the printing part, the biggest part of the job is done. So you just select your printer, you select the ink combination, you select your rip, as you said, you download the profile, and at least talking from a printing point of view, you are set, and you can start using the media properly.
Okay. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys use color-based, don't you, for the downloads?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, good. See, I wanted to make sure I give Marco his due because I worked with Marco for a long time at Colorbase, and I think it's great. Look, there's a meaningful investment in doing that. And what you're signaling to me, to your customers, to all these people who are saying, hey, I've been using Avery or 3M for all these years. And I think what you're saying to the customer is, listen, we have a great film. You may not be familiar with FEDRIGONI, but they're a very large global manufacturer. They've dialed in what, Matt, you called a next generation vinyl film. It's exceedingly accessible for beginners, but somebody who's experienced won't say this is missing certain key things that I'm familiar with. And I think that's what Jim Miller was telling me is, hey, I've been doing this for 40 years and this stuff worked great.
Right.
In his limited exposure to it, but that's what I would expect. And then you provide them with a full color, portfolio for the different third-party rips. And a lot of companies don't do that investment on the color. It's just not available for Onyx or for Caldera or for Print Factory or for Flexi. And I accept that the customer uses the software they want to use.
Yeah.
I use 3 or 4 different rips all the time. So it's nice to be able to go to a site like Colorbase and say, there's my rip, there's the media, download it, and then the color, you have different modes and you have the color all dialed in, so I get really good results.
Yeah.
So high marks to you for doing that. It's a nice touch. It's a commitment. Go ahead, Matt, I'm sorry.
Sorry, just to add, to kind of circle around what we were talking about earlier, how different each film is from manufacturer to manufacturer now. So, with that, profiles are more important than they have ever been, especially when it comes to latex, UV gel, things like that. So, the importance of profiles and kind of trying to educate customers on that has been very important as well.
Fantastic. All right, folks, with that, I think we're going to wrap it up. We try to keep things to the point, brief, high degree of levity, good factual content. That's the whole point of Print Island. We'd love to have you back. I know you guys have a whole portfolio of projects. 2 things before I leave. Where can you go if you want to be trained to do wraps? Like if you want to learn, like where do I go to learn how to do a wrap, and will you be at Printing United? I'm assuming you will be. And then the second question I have is, oh my goodness, it fell out of my head already. So we'll just stick with one.
So right now, we are building our formal training program. Right now around the country, we have been running an introduction to commercial fleet type class and a very base level class. So it's great for the beginner, which, I feel there's a big gap. It's very easy for somebody to start in this class if it's someone who's intimidated and going to one of the larger classes that are offered now. Right now, we don't have a set schedule. We have more planned now, but those are usually hosted by the distributors of the film, like the Laird Plastics, Quality Media, things like that. So just follow.
And that leads exactly to the question that fell back into my head. Where can you buy it? Where do you buy it in the United States?
So Laird Plastics is probably the largest distributor of FEDRIGONI right now. They're the early adopter, of the C50 Ultimate Slide and Tack. But there are plenty of other distributors that are carrying it as well. So
okay, do you find that at the FEDRIGONI site, Paula, or is there other places you could sort of look?
No, it's still, the part related to distributor is still under construction, because you're entering another topic that could be very interesting for another interview, which is what we are building for the FEDRIGONI Graphics business unit. Okay.
That will definitely be a good topic for another time. And we would love to have you come on Print Island again. Thank you all for coming. Have a wonderful weekend. Cheers to all of you. And signing off, wave goodbye to the island. Off we go.
Cheers.
Take care, everybody.
Hi and welcome to Print Island's UK update. Apart from being in the midst of a heat wave, the news tends to be occupied by much of what it has been for some time. M&A activity, companies seeking investment, companies going out of business, and a lot of consolidation. The surprise at the moment is that a lot of the larger print groups seem to be focusing on this as well, looking to be purchased. We've seen the news from Woolstead, and large tech companies like Roundup seeking enormous swathes of investment to continue their development. I think there's also a lot of consolidation going on in the print sector, having had conversations with investors looking at this sector as a bright opportunity for them. So I think worth watching in the coming months. The AI conversations continue. I don't necessarily think that the print industry is at the moment leading the way with that, but it's certainly being pushed in certain directions by the developments outside of the trade. For me, though, the best news of the week is that Print Charity has announced its Rising Stars, which will be awarded next month, and celebrate the UK's, bright young things. I'm guessing our future leaders. So have a look at the lists, see where they're from, what they're doing, because these people will be influencing our lives moving forwards for the positive. And I think it's also good to see that there are, despite rumours, a lot of young people still in the industry looking for a long-term career. This is Tim Cox for Print Island. Thank you.
Welcome to Print Island's rapid fire roundup of what's shaping Europe's print and graphics. We start off with Lambda Digital Printing. They announced a 20% workforce cut, putting nanographic printing's future in question. Let's see what happens. Epson wowed with a robotic-powered direct-to-shape system using precision core tech, ideal for high-speed printing and complex packaging. Meanwhile, here in Europe, we had Label Expo Europe, which spotlighted sustainability, and Bobt and ESCO, for example, unveiled hybrid AI-driven systems that slash waste and boost efficiency. Remember those two words. And according to Intergraph, the European Printing Industry Trade Association, Europe's print sector includes 110,000 companies, 550,000 employees, and is overwhelmingly driven by small businesses. Packaging now fuels 60% of total turnover in Europe. But the headlines haven't all been rosy, yet it is an important barometer for the printing industry. UPM will close its Ettringen mill in Germany by July, signaling deeper industry overcapacity. Metsä Board has shut its Spacco mill in Finland, and France Cenepa remains in receivership with no deal yet on the horizon. Over in forestry, still paper-related, Stora Enso is offloading 175,000 acres of Swedish land for 900 million euros. Still innovation thrives, and news from the UK, James Cropper, also into the paper industry, has made a children's book out of used coffee cups. So smarter, greener, and being more agile is on top of mind. So what is driving this shift? Soaring costs, aging infrastructure, and a market pivoting fast from graphic papers to packaging and specialty print. We're also seeing major momentum in some key areas like sustainability, AI, and automation, and there's a creative boom in specialty print with print on demand flourishing across fashion, decor, and more. And let's not forget packaging again. It continues to show resilience and real growth. So here are my takeaways. Print is evolving, certainly not dead. It's becoming smarter, greener, and far more agile. So stay with me, stay sharp, because the innovation train isn't slowing down, and neither are we. Until next time, this is Jacques Michiels for Print Island, Europe. Cheers.
Hi, quick update from me. Looking at sustainability this week, there was a big noise through Label Expo last month up in Bangkok. They had a real focus during the event when Kurz talking about compostability of embellishment products. We also had Asahi looking at a clutch of solvent-free products coming through as well. And they had a product there called, I think it was Clean Connect. A Clean Connect reducing manual labour requirement by up to 90% within the process, which is something that deserves a much closer look at for sure. We also had UPO. UPO coming out with something they call Clean Sort, and Clean Sort's removing the contaminants from the self-adhesive on their labels during the recycling process. Some great stuff going on. And the last thing from me, something I came across in a bit of research this week, a company called Green Lab in Singapore. They're making non-PVC banners, stickers, bags, you name it. What are they making it from if it's not PVC? It's not paper. They're making it from cassava root. Cassava root is then being turned into these fantastic simulations of PVC, but then something that is compostable within 180 days. And if you put it into hot water, it disappears in 3 minutes. What a fantastic innovation. This has been Scott Mackey, and this is Print Island Asia.
Hello, and here's the latest from the GCC. In a report submitted by the Index Box, the GCC's consumption of coated printing and writing paper grew to 373 kilotons in 2024. That's up by 4.5% on the previous period. Now, forecasters are predicting the volume will be reaching a lofty 473 kilotons by 2035. No surprise, the UAE and Saudi Arabia dominate the usage, covering around 98% of the market. Now, is this a reflection of the print industry right now, with two dominant players in the region? And this is something maybe we should be looking at for one of our Print Island episodes. Moving over to the UAE and to Dubai, Fujifilm doubles down and made a massive statement opening new offices in Expo City. This furthermore underlines their intent to support and grow the GCC and North Africa region. Congratulations to you on your new home. And staying in Dubai, Konica Minolta concluded their global conference where they invited 109 delegates from 33 countries across Asia Pacific, the Middle East and Latin America. And finally, you may have noticed the rebrand for Vespa of late. Well, make sure you check out the Vespa Middle East website because that brand has also had a bit of an upgrade as well. I'm Chris Min and this is Print Island.
Hi, my name is Tim Mitchell and I am the Practical Printer. Digital printing for practical people. First,
please let me have a little cold German beer. Cheers, everybody. I think one of the things that sets my product reviews apart from the other product reviews is cold German beer. When you put the can back on top of the printer, like it shows in the manual, make sure you put a coaster underneath it so you don't leave a ring around the top of the printer. Same really goes for plants. In the case you wish to festoon your printer with growing plants, make sure you put something underneath the plants to catch the water. The printer that I'm going to review today is the Epson R5070. The R5070 is a resin printer. For those of you who don't know, resin is a water-based, outdoor, durable ink technology. It was pioneered by HP, which they call latex. Epson resin and HP latex are both resin printers, synthetic resin copolymer, and they perform much the same. There are some key differences, and the main difference is Epson uses their own proprietary piezo printheads, whereas HP uses thermal printheads, which are also HP proprietary. Different printhead technology, many of the other things are similar. I use a fairly simple heuristic to go through an evaluation. There's no way that I can do an evaluation in the roughly 10 to 15 minutes of this particular show's format. So I have a much longer deep dive, which we provide for our subscribers for our Print Island subscriber benefits. For now, you'll have to be content with an overview of this particular Epson printer, which I am very favorably disposed towards. What I use to evaluate a printer is fairly straightforward. First, build quality. Build quality is just an overall impression of the key components and how well everything comes together and how well it's executed and engineered. And as usual, Epson does a very nice job. This is a hefty, robust printer, which you will discover when you take it out of the box and put it on the stand. It took us 4 guys. And it's very well made. The print heads, which are now user replaceable, but there's a caveat, you have to carry the service warranty in order to be able to install them yourself. This is a very clever move on Epson's part. The piezo print head is user replaceable and it is very high quality. It has a small drop and it has a variable grayscale process. It looks gorgeous. It uses a 6-color ink system and it really shows. It's a nice high quality result. Epson has a very high quality platen, and I actually like their heater in the way that it attaches on the front. It's easy to put on, it's actually easy to remove, and all of the media travels in a very straightforward, no-nonsense manner from the feed roll to the take-up reel, and it has a nice perfect little arc across the platen. Feed and take-up have been sterling, no issues. Again, nice build quality. Epson does a good job in that respect, and it reflects their many, many years in this particular category of types of printers. The next thing I look for is productivity. Now, productivity is different from speed, although speed is a component of productivity. Productivity effectively is how much can you get done with without a lot of fuss or nonsense or interruptions, or sideline processes. Let me give you a very good example. 2 printers may have the same speed, but one printer requires gas off, i.e. solvent, whereas resin does not. So if you're doing a vehicle wrap with this printer, I can actually turn it around in half the time, even though the print speed is technically slower. That's productivity versus speed. Those are important distinctions. Now, the printer is modest as far as speed. Like with all marketing nonsense, blather, and puffery, they quote some ridiculous speed of 200 and some square feet an hour that nobody's really going to use. Your speed on this printer starts with 6 pass, which is what I would primarily use, primarily for things like banner. Now, if I want the quality of point of purchase, point of sale, which is what I run most things on, I'm going to run 9-pass on this printer. I don't remember exactly what the speed is, but my guess is probably around 120 square feet an hour. What's cool about it, though, is Epson has allowed the optimizer, yes, they use an optimizer also, to run in the front pass and in the back pass of the bidirectional and apply optimizer in both pass modes. So you're never compromised on the back pass of having a commingled optimizer. Everything lays out the way it's supposed to be, and that's an advantage of Epson's printhead technology. That begins in 9-pass. By the way, the background noises that you hear, that's what always happens whenever I do a review of an Epson printer. All the HP printers come to life and then try to make distracting noise. There is something really funny about that. Anyway, welcome up HP printers. Glad you joined us. Another cool thing about this resin printer is media versatility. You can print on a ton of different kinds of medias, and that's a hallmark of resin technology. So you can print on wall coverings, you can print on canvas, you can print on adhesive vinyl of all kinds. I have been successful with textile fabrics. Other people have complained a little bit. It does have a broad range of media types you can print on, and it's very, very close to UV, or UV is close to resin in that they're very, very wide selection, more so than you would see really with solvents. Everything comes off the printer completely dry, and that's a hallmark of resin latex process. That's something I also like a great deal. You don't have to worry about going to the take-up roll and having things stick to themselves. Manners. Manners is kind of how I look at a printer, like good dog, bad dog. A good dog is actually more like a cactus, which is how I always described HP latex printers. Same with the Epson resin. What's cool about it is there's a maintenance liquid, and that maintenance liquid ensures that the print head is always tip-top. And the maintenance liquid only costs, can you believe it, like $20 for the bag. Now, you go through it like a fat kid eats cake, but it's inexpensive. And whenever I need the printer to run, I know, boom, it's ready to go. The print head has been extremely maintenance and trouble-free. The printer has been very well mannered. Now, I hardly have any miles on it. I mean, it hasn't even cracked 1,000 square feet, but I use it mostly for testing and R&D and evaluation more than production. I have people who use them in a production environment, and most of the people I've spoken to are quite happy. It's a good dog. As dogs go, it's very unattended. It doesn't eat the furniture. It doesn't cause a lot of trouble. A solvent printer is much, much more likely to cause trouble when you don't care for it all the time. It requires attention. It will clog, it will back up, it will cause all kinds of issues. Solvent, much more commitment for maintenance and attention. Resin, not at all. You can pretty much ignore this printer and then just come in, it'll go into hibernation, and when you need it, it'll be ready to go. Software. Software is one of those things that I'm a third-party software guy. I much prefer using Onyx or Print Factory or Flexi, also Caldera and Ergosoft, because I like the color control. I use do all my own color work, and also the back end for finishing devices. I don't want to be narrowly chosen by somebody else's limiting software. Epson does offer a product, a software with the printer, which is nice. It's good for diagnostics. It's also good if you don't want to buy a RIP. I've already bought RIPs. I already love RIPs. I use third-party RIPs. And by and large, Epson is pretty well integrated with the third-party RIPs. Epson has made quite a few profiles that you can download right into the third-party RIP, and by and large, you can find something that is close to what you're likely to be running, and the prints really look nice. One of the things, as I might mention, about the piezo print head versus thermal, since it's on my mind, I like the consistency of a piezo print head for panel printing because it's very good for panel consistency over time. Things don't drift, things don't move. So I might print a job now, 2 weeks later I goof up a part of it, and then I can reprint that panel to look the same. That's a hallmark of a piezo head, and Epson makes very good piezo print heads. So we have build quality, check, very good. Productivity, modest but reliable, solid, and very good quality and very good color consistency. Media versatility is very good. You can print a lot of different things on it. I'm going to try a few more fabrics and see if I'm going to see the same issues. Manners, good dog. You know, easy, doesn't get in the way, doesn't chew up the furniture, doesn't make a mess. Software, connected, enabled, definitely linked up with third-party software, so it's not just locked in some sort of proprietary mindset. Now we get to service. I have had very good luck with this printer thus far. Now, I don't run it a lot, but very good luck. Like the printer a lot. However, I have just run into an issue which is almost inscrutable, in which I sent a file here. The file lands on the printer, and then I said, oh, I forgot to put the bleed around it. It's a pretty big file. I cancel it in Onyx. I wait for the printer to do its thing, and I know it's going to probably print a couple strips because of what data did come over. It does print a couple strips and then throws an error message and keeps throwing the error message. And now it's stuck on stupid. It's throwing the error message over and over again, even though there's really no reason to. I'm told it's probably a service flag. Now, whether that service flag can be removed easily or not remains to be seen. The good news is I called Epson support and I reached somebody right away, no elaborate phone maze, and the fellow that I reached, Juan, was well informed, considerate, listened carefully, and offered constructive recommendations. High marks for Epson and their phone service. Good job, Juan, very nice. Also, the folks over at LexJet, Michael Clementi, they were available almost right away and helped me to the extent that they can. You know, LexJet is not a servicing dealer for Epson. And that kind of brings me to step 2. There's no reason that I should have this flag. There's no reason that, if it is causal, that this large file should cause the printer to go bonkers and subsequently just keep throwing the error message no matter what I do. I'm in a position now where I may have to reach out to third party or to service, an Epson certified technician, to come over here, charge me a bunch of money to do something that really should not be done in the first place. With the amount of usage I've had on this printer, there is no reason that that printer should throw an error message and stay stuck on it. If this thing turns out to just be a software thing and I have to have somebody come out with a laptop just to clear it, that'll be particularly irritating. Otherwise, very high marks. But once you get into the service side of it, Epson tends to be very focused on keeping it in the Epson domain. They don't share well with independent service technicians. They don't allow much of their information to be widely disseminated, and they're trying to kind of lock it in because, like everyone else, they're trying to turn their service into a profit center. That's not easy to do. Now, they're not alone. All of the major OEM manufacturers are eyeing the same goal. How do we make money at service, if possible? At a minimum, let's break even. And that's difficult to do unless you're focused on keeping it in-house and relying heavily on service contracts. The whole industry is moving towards service contract model, and they're moving away from servicing dealers and independent service technicians. Now, my loyalty is always to servicing dealers and independent service technicians. That's where I traditionally have always found a great deal of value. You get a person who's very good at fixing printers, who doesn't need to look at the manual, that knows them cold, and can be very helpful and available on short order. Versus potentially having Epson have to fly somebody out here, charge me a ton of money, and I'm out $3,500 just to do a very simple procedure. That's why people move towards carry a service contract every year. But to carry a service contract on this printer, now you really have to recalculate the cost of the printer, because you almost now have to carry those expensive service contracts. And that's where we are pretty much as an industry. There's a huge dearth of service technicians. There's effectively one, maybe 1.5 companies that are trying to service all of the big OEMs nationally, and all of the major manufacturers are trying to essentially send service off to a third party, so they want to outsource that and have a very bare-bones service staff. And I think that's creating some problems throughout the industry. Maybe not, but it's certainly the direction of things, and it's something that I think we're going to talk about quite a bit, both on the practical printer and then also on Print Island, is what is the state of service in the US and what is the state of service globally, and how come a young, intelligent young man or woman can't go to a place, learn how to fix printers, and then easily set up either their own business or go work for other of the major manufacturers, or some of the servicing dealers that remain. And here's high marks to servicing dealers. Questions to consider. Hopefully we'll have another cold German beer to have that discussion in the future. Cheers, everybody, and that's my preliminary overview review of the Epson R5070. For the deep dive, that's for subscription, and I will definitely put in the effort to go through all the things you'll need to know about this printer if you're going to consider buying it. Cheers. Oh, that's good.
Well, that's all the time we have for this, our first episode of Print Island. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I know that we enjoyed making it. And please tell all of your friends in the industry that we have created a safe, accommodating, and welcoming place for them to come and talk and listen to people just like them in the digital printing industry. Next episode on Print Island, your guest host will be Scott Mackey from Asia Pacific. Scott has a fantastic show lined up, and I think you're really going to like it. And I'll also be joining as the Practical Printer with another revealing and informative product review. So until then, please spread the word about Print Island, a place to talk about the global printing industry as it is. Thank you, goodbye, and cheers.
Print Island is a global print media channel with news provided to you, the viewer, from all corners of the world. And remember, the sun never sets on Print Island.